market can be downright terrifying, especially in this movie Unlisted, which I'll be getting into next on the Bloody Breakdown. Let's get creepy. Okay, so Unlisted is a movie directed by Jed Bryan, and it's an indie horror film, and it deals with a group of young people who basically break into this house that has a lot of history to it when it comes to murder and mayhem and killings. It's a found footage movie, which, yeah, you know, found footage can be awesome, and it can also, you know, we've seen a lot of it, and especially with the horror genre. There was a time when, especially with Paranormal Activity and other films, found footage was like the big thing. Basically a group of young people who basically decide to go into this house that has recently had a slew of murders in it, and it also has a history of other murders in it. And for whatever reason, this house seems to keep getting rented and bought by some people who keep moving in there, and I blame the housing market. It's found footage. It's a found footage film. That's how it's directed, and it's a film where, you know, it has a very basic plot. You know, these young people going to do something they shouldn't. They go into a house that clearly stuff's not on the up and up there, and it's a night of terror. Which is great. You know, it's a very basic plot, which when it comes to horror, like I said before, you don't need a convoluted, really complicated thing. You just need a base of, you know, a struggle between characters. Will they win? Will they lose? And what's the basic terror, monster, horror that's going on in particular to a horror film? I kind of want to highlight this film just because, one, I think it's awesome when we have more people making more content who are doing it themselves, horror film, independent stuff. I think that's always great to give great highlights to. It's now streaming on Amazon, and yeah, I just kind of want to go through some of the highlights that I thought were cool about this found footage kind of film. So, full disclosure, I'm not the biggest fan of found footage film. I loved the first Paranormal Activity, and I actually, you can't revoke my horror card here, I have not fully watched the Blair Witch Project. I know. I watched like half of it, and I was like, all right, I get it. But the Paranormal Activity movies were my jam, and I really enjoyed them because they did the found footage in such a way where it was sort of believable that the camera kept rolling in different situations, and it really did play up this fact where you could still be terrified and not thinking, oh my God, the camera keeps shaking, which some found footage movies can be. And so with that full disclosure of my bias against, in a way, found footage, I actually really enjoyed this found footage film. It was, and probably just because it was so straightforward, you know, and it also did the found footage in a very interesting way where they kept going back into the police station and the cue cards when it came to what you were watching, what the film you were watching, which is a different kind of way to kind of do the found footage thing. And I liked the fact that it was just straightforward. You know, two of the people in the group were the ones who were kind of filming, and they were really into film, so they wanted to keep filming, and they filmed different things, and it did it in such a way where it's like, okay, I can kind of believe, you know, why the film would keep going, why the filming, the characters filming would keep going. And, you know, because they're on a camping trip with their friends, and then they decide to get this crazy idea to go into this house, which they heard earlier today there was a whole bunch of murders in it. So yeah, this actually, I think probably one of the things that played into that was the fact that it's not a very long movie, which it doesn't need to be, right? I mean, it's a found footage film. You do not, no one wants to sit through 3 hours of found footage, right? So you need to do it in such a way where it stays with you, it's there, it hits you, and it impacts you, and it's done. You know, and this film actually did that very well. It's a little over an hour. It's kind of like, it kind of had a campfire feel story. Like, let me tell you about this journey, like this thing that happened to this group of people who were never, you know, maybe they were never heard from again. Who knows? And I think it did it in a way where it didn't overstay its welcome, unlike the people in that house. Ooh, yeah. I like the fact the pacing was solid. The length was perfect. Like I said, you do not need a whole bunch of hours of found footage kind of film. And I actually like the characters. At first I thought, oh my gosh, like they're gonna be kind of obnoxious or just gonna be bickering the whole time, or I'm going to not believe that these people could be friends. But throughout the dialogue, you could kind of believe, like there was dysfunction in the group, but in a way where it kind of made sense why there was dysfunction and where the conflict was happening. So that was a good kind of contrast. It didn't go too deep into it, but enough where it was like, this wasn't just a bland group of people who suddenly decide, let's go into a house where there was a murder like just yesterday. Like I didn't get like super attached to the characters, and I don't think you needed that for this kind of film. I didn't need to be like, oh my gosh, I need to know everything about so-and-so star. No, it's more like, okay, this person's cool, this person's cool, this person's a jerk. You know, things like that where you kind of get the dynamic, the feel for it, and now we can focus on what's going to happen to these people. But yeah, overall, I think it's a fun film, and I think that's the key to it, right? When you want to have a good time when you watch a movie. So if you're going to give an hour to 2 hours out of your time, you want to have a good time. And I think this is the kind of film where you would definitely have a solid time watching it. I mean, like I said, found footage can be an acquired taste. Not everyone loves it, and I think if a plot line does it right, it can be really good. And this film actually did a good job of that. And there were actually some jump scares too. You know, I think there was definitely some jump scares where it was, and that's the whole thing with found footage as well. Like one of the things with jump scares, like, oh, the camera, now you see the face. And that can get a little repetitive, right? So this film, I think it actually created a decent atmosphere where it was kind of like, what's going on? Like in the chaos, you started to get kind of like antsy. And I thought that was good instead of just relying on the jump scare of, oh, I turned the camera and someone's there. You know, kind of a different way of going about it, trying to give kind of a fresh view of it. So I dug that. I dug it. It could feel like it was lagging a little bit in the very beginning, but I think once it found its footing, it really just kind of took off from there. So, is Unlisted stab approved? Yes, it is definitely stab approved. I think if you want to get into a film that kind of is it's one of those things where it's kind of old school horror a little bit with the found footage sort of deal. I think you'll definitely like this. You can get it, it's on Amazon streaming, so you can watch it in the comfort of your home, or maybe not the comfort of your home because it's about haunted houses. So I definitely would approve that. So, have you seen the Unlisted movie, or what do you think? What are your recommendations for another haunted house found footage film that I should, because you know I kind of have a bias. So if you have some found footage things that you think I should be watching, please let me know. Comment down below with your recommendations, and also be sure to subscribe so that you are the first to know when I post my new videos. Thanks for watching. Let's get creepy together.